Mr. Farage, thank you for being here. This is my first interview, so I will do my best. But Mr. Farage, can you please explain to our Dutch viewers who you are?
Well, I'm a businessman, somebody that worked in the City of London, involved in international finance, and in 1990 I saw Britain sign up to something called the exchange rate mechanism, where we pegged the level of sterling against the Deutschmark as a precursor to joining the euro. And I thought as a businessman, this is mad. The British economy and the German economy are different things.
Yes.
It can't work. Sure enough, it didn't work. And that led me to thinking more deeply about what was the European Union? What was it for? Did it make sense? And I concluded in the mid-1990s that it didn't make sense in a globalised economy to lock ourselves into a customs union with our European partners. Didn't make sense for Britain economically, and it certainly didn't make sense for Britain in democratic terms. And so I pledged then that I would start to get involved and stand in elections, and since that time I've been chairman and leader of the UK Independence Party, and we went from nowhere back in the mid-90s to coming second across the entire United Kingdom in the European elections of 2009. I do try and tell people still that I'm not a politician, but that argument's wearing a bit thin.
Well, I guess you're very successful in this house and also in your own country as a party leader, because a lot of people know you, of course, and you're famous for your harsh words in this parliament.
I wouldn't call them harsh.
Well,
I just give bits of advice.
Yes, that's true, and you are very nice to listen to. But for once, you called the European President Van Rompuy. You called him the man who has the appearance of a bank clerk and has the charisma of a damp rag.
No, I said low-grade bank clerk.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but after that performance earlier that you gave, and I don't want to be rude, but you know, really, you have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask is, who are you? I'd never heard of you. Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you. I would like to ask you, President, who voted for you?
You were fined for that.
Yeah, they fined me 10 days' pay. I mean, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That I've been called in that chamber, I've been called mentally ill,
yeah.
I've been compared with Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there is no form of abuse that the supporters of the Lisbon Treaty would not sink to in attacking me as the leader of the only Eurosceptic group in the Parliament. And I have a bit of fun against the chap who, frankly, does look like a low-grade bank clerk and does have the charisma of a damp rag, and I get fined 10 days' pay. Well, listen, let them do what they want. I couldn't care less.
No. But you did pay the fine.
Oh, yeah.
Because they
took it from my daily allowances.
Okay.
I mean, you know, look, frankly, by behaving like that, they make themselves look pretty stupid. You know, if an organisation as big as this, and if a man who's being paid more than Obama, who has a fleet of cars, who behaves like a US president, can't take a bit of criticism, then I would suggest there's something wrong with him, not me.
Okay. I want to talk to you about Turkey. Turkey is a candidate member state for quite some time. What do you think about Turkey? Should Turkey become a member of the EU or not?
98% of the land mass of Turkey is in Asia.
Yes.
So how it can join Europe is beyond me. What we've got here, and Barroso once was honest about it, Barroso once described the European Union as the first non-imperial empire. Namely, they're not doing it with armies, they're not doing it through invading, they're doing it economically, they're doing it politically. And therefore, I can see from their perspective why they want to expand constantly. You know, keep expanding, and then you take people's mind off what's actually going wrong within. It's a classic tactic that's been used by empires, you know, through thousands of years of history. I would have thought that Turkish membership of the Union would be an even bigger mistake than allowing countries like Romania and Bulgaria in, both of which should never have joined. They did not meet the criteria in any way at all. But they're quite small countries, so much as they have an effect upon us, it's a relatively small effect. Letting in a country with a population of approximately 75 million, but growing very rapidly, you know, due to be 100 million by 2025, there is a cultural problem in that whilst Turkey maintains a secular government, it is an Islamic country, and you know, there are problems there. But also the real problem, of course, is that if they join the European Union, they will have the total free rights of movement. And that will mean many, many millions of Turks heading to our countries, seeking jobs and seeking a better life. And, you know, I'm not blaming the Turkish people who want to do that, because we all want to better ourselves, but it is wholly irresponsible for Western governments and the European Union to say to people in poor countries, you may come to a relatively rich country, you can work here, you can enjoy social security, your children can benefit from the education system, you can use our health service. I mean, it is mad. And I think what we're seeing, and certainly you've had it in the Netherlands, and we're seeing samples of this in the United Kingdom, is we're seeing the increased ghettoisation of our cities and towns.
Yes.
Where different groups live in different parts, where never the twain shall meet, where we live in societies that are increasingly divided, societies that are increasingly less comfortable and less happy. And I have to say, I mean, I've always taken the view that of all the countries in Europe, the British have always been the most liberal. You know, we had a very big empire. When the empire went, we accepted lots of people, whether it was from Jamaica or India or wherever else it may be. And the British have been the number one at assimilating different cultures and different races within our country. We've been highly successful at it, but that's all fallen to pieces in the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
You know, where every market town in England now has a Polish ghetto, where there is acrimony that exists between the local population and the Polish population. And if we do that with Turkey on a scale that may be 3 or 4 times the size of what we've done with Poland and the rest of Eastern Europe, that I would suggest that's bad news for all of us. And that is the main reason that we should oppose Turkish membership of the Union.
Okay. Well, and of course it costs also a lot of money, because Turkey is a very big and poor country.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of transfers, in terms of regional policy, I mean, clearly that's where the money would go. But I think clearly money matters, and money is important, and particularly as we're looking at bailing out Greece and possibly Portugal and Ireland and maybe even Spain, money matters. But the health and happiness of our nations and societies matter even more than money.
Yeah. And what about the problem? It's an Islamic country. You believe no Islamic country could join EU, or don't you believe so? Look, Albania, for instance.
I mean, look, you know, there are tensions that exist between fundamental strains of Islam and Western civilization, and there are points of contact at which the two appear to be incompatible. Now, having said that, there are plenty of moderate Islamic people, and many of them are members of UKIP. I mean, we've had Islamic candidates standing for UKIP. But you've got those extreme strains of Islam that are potentially very dangerous and quite corrosive in terms of forming a cohesive society. And to say to 75 million people, a proportion of which will be from the extreme wing of Islam, you have total free rights to come to our country and set up your store here. No, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, well, thank you very much. About one of the last questions I want to ask you is about Sarkozy and the expelling of Roma people from France. You know, a lot of Roma people come to France, and Sarkozy said, we don't want you here. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, there are roughly 4 million Roma in Romania who are living under conditions of prejudice and intolerance that we haven't seen in Europe. I haven't seen in my lifetime, but we haven't seen since the Jews in Germany in 1930. That may sound extreme, but I'm sorry. I've been there. I've been to Roma camps and communities. I've seen it. So, again, it was irresponsible to say to all of them, if you want to come to our countries, you can. Now, Sarkozy got away with the expulsions because for the moment, under transitional arrangements, he's allowed to do it. But from the 1st of January 2014, Sarkozy will not be able to do what he's recently done. And it's a classic example of what we've all signed up to. You know, this is not about a common market for trade. This is about a political union. And it's about us as nation states losing the ability to decide who can come to live, work and settle in our countries. And that's a fundamental principle of a nation state. If a nation can't decide who comes to live within it, does it continue to be a nation state? Now, I've seen some rumblings from the Dutch government that they're going to come to Brussels and they're going to bang their fist on the table and they're going to say, look, we want much more control in the Netherlands over who comes to our country, and I wish them luck. but I'm afraid it's not going to work. Because they're determined here to have a common immigration and asylum policy. They're determined here that they will decide for you and for me in my country what we can and can't do in terms of immigration. And maybe it's the immigration issue that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Maybe that'll be the thing that finally makes our populations realise that actually we don't want all of this vast building, this huge bureaucracy, this huge cost, this huge imposition of foreign law upon us, this total diminution of our own democracy, of our identity, of our ability to control our borders. And maybe we should all say, well, it's actually time we lived in a 21st century Europe, which would be a Europe of sovereign states that elect their own governments, that make their own laws, but that are prepared to sit around a table like this, and we can agree minimum standards on the environment, on health and safety at work, on products. We can do all the things that good next-door neighbours would choose to do living in a street, but we do so as sovereign, proud nations.
Well, I can't agree with you more on this sovereignty of our countries. Well, do you have any final words to our Dutch viewers you want to say to them?
Yeah, I do. I want to say this. You were given a referendum on the EU constitution, and 2/3 of you, very sensibly, said no. I remember the evening. We had a big champagne celebration in the Parlement here, and it was great fun. And what did they do? They just ignored you. They just ignored you.
That's true.
And my advice to people from your country watching this is do not trust your own career politicians. Don't put the blame on Mr. Barroso or the EU institutions. It's not them that have taken away your democracy. It's your own politicians that have given it away. And do not give your vote to those so-called major parties that have done this to you. Vote for alternatives, push for referendums, and I hope that within the next 10 years, your country and mine will be neighbours, trading partners, and all of those things, but we won't be together in a political union. And I want my children to grow up in a country that they can call their own, and I would have thought that was a good, normal thing for all of us to want.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more again. So thank you very much for joining me in this discussion. And I hope to see you a lot of times here in this building. Thank you very much.